I ran an official search for the historical Earthquake XT cordless ratchet, and it came back empty. No current cordless ratchet listing, no current parts breakdown, no model-specific service program. That is a search finding, not proof of universal absence. No tool had been touched and nothing had been switched on. Getting onto a battery platform is its own outlay, and that outlay is still not the thing that settles this one. The belief in this category is that a cordless ratchet gets decided in the hand by feel and by weight. Turn that over. What I can look after gets decided on paper, by the number stamped into the housing, and by what official material says back to that number. Here is what you will be able to do with your own hands and your own phone. Standing at a counter on a candidate in front of you, you will read a catalog number off the housing, type that exact string into the manufacturer's own site, and read whatever comes back to you. Everything I gather goes into an ownership file with 6 entries. 5 of those entries are physical, and you can work every one of them at the counter without spending a cent. The written terms entry is examined after the 5 physical entries, so the verdict rests on a complete file rather than on whichever tool sat nicest in my hand first. 2 kinds of paper shared my desk for a 4-decade commercial fleet career. Purchase records on one side of it, maintenance records on the other. The purchase record told me what a thing was called in the form the catalog used. The maintenance record told me what had been written down about that same name later on. I read them in that order for so long that I cannot read a tool any other way. Catalog identity first, written record second. Now the limit of that said plainly because it matters. I never kept comparative test counts. No tallies, no rankings, nothing I can read you off a page, and I am not going to invent any to make a point land harder. What I carry out of those years is a reading order, and it is the one I am putting on 4 names today. Subscribe if you want more document first buying files. Entry 1 is where the ownership file starts. Entry 1 is what it takes to get onto the platform at all. Entry 2 is whether the exact model is carried on official material. Entry 3 is the documented route for asking about service once coverage ends. Entry 4 is drive and anvil fit, conditional. Entry 5 is controls, rail, and head, conditional 2. Entry 6 is the applicable written terms. Get this wrong and you own a poor file, which leaves you uncertain about what official discussion may be available. Entry 1 feels like arithmetic instead of judgment, which is exactly why it gets skipped. Before you own a cordless ratchet, you have to own the power that turns it. And on every candidate in front of me today, that is a separate decision from the ratchet itself. The 40-year buy list, my written companion to this way of shopping, is linked in the description and pinned comment, and it walks the same reading order in print. Start with the Milwaukee 245720. It sits on M12, the 12-volt cordless platform Milwaukee is generally known for, and M12 is an active platform. If you already run M12 packs on your bench, that may reduce what it costs you to get onto the platform. But you still have to verify the health of those packs in that charger and confirm they are compatible with this tool before you count any of it as a saving. If you do not run them, then you are not buying a ratchet at all. You are buying into a platform, and the ratchet is riding along on that larger decision. The Makita RW01Z is a CXT tool. Same arithmetic, other platform. If you already own CXT, that ownership may reduce what you still need to get onto the platform, but only after you verify exact compatibility with this tool, the health of those packs, and the condition of that charger. Existing packs do not make it a bare tool purchase on their own. Starting from nothing, you are buying a platform with a ratchet attached to it. I am not going to read you figures on either one. Figures move by seller and by week, and anything I said out loud today would be wrong by the time you were standing in the aisle. What I will give you is the shape of it, because the shape holds. The platform is the part you keep. The ratchet is the part that clips onto the part you keep. Then there is the historical Earthquake XT Cordless Ratchet. My official search returned 3 narrow gaps and only those 3. No current cordless ratchet listing. No current parts breakdown. No model-specific service program. That leaves entry 1 with nothing official to stand on for that one, because I cannot cost out a platform decision against material I did not locate. ProStormer is the 4th name on my pad, and the official material I opened did not carry an exact catalog number for the ratchet. The page also read as sold out at the moment I looked at it. I want to be careful with that, because it is a note about one page on one day, and nothing more than that. It is not a claim about anybody's supply, and it is not a statement about what will be there next week. Here is the caveat that rides along with every finding in this file, and I am going to repeat it more than once. What I searched was official material, and what I found was what official material showed me on the day I looked. That does not prove universal absence. It does not prove no document exists anywhere. The Milwaukee sits on M12, which is an active platform, and the Makita sits on a documented CXT configuration. The other 2 I could not describe from official material that way at all. Entry 2 is the one where the plainest looking tool tends to win. And it wins for a reason that has nothing to do with how it feels in the hand. Take the number off the housing, not the family name off the box. Brand families are marketing. Catalog numbers are inventory. The question is whether that exact string is carried on the manufacturer's own material. Run it before you pay. Type the exact string, look at the domain the answer sits on, and ignore what is not the manufacturer's own house. Run it, and the answers separate quickly. The Milwaukee 245720 comes back with an official parts list, official service material, and official warranty material attached to that exact catalog number. That is 3 categories of official documentation tied to one number. What those 3 categories establish is documented material and nothing past it. Not that a part is in stock, not that anyone will take your call, not that a repair happens, not that coverage applies, and not how any of it ends. The Makita RW01Z comes back with official warranty coverage and a published direct repair route tied to the model. The RW01Z is documented in a CXT configuration, and the terms in the repair route are published against that model itself. Now the document part, and it is the reason I care about this entry more than any spec on a box. Entry 3 matters because an exact model number appearing in official service material gives a documented place to begin a question, and when the narrow official material I checked does not show such a route, the inquiry remains unresolved until better material appears. What I could actually do at that counter did not depend on how the tool felt when it was new. It depended entirely on whether the number stamped into it meant anything to anybody official. A number appearing in official material provides a documented reference point. It does not prove anyone will answer, take a call, supply a part, offer coverage, repair, or produce any outcome. A number that returns nothing official leaves the inquiry unresolved, and it stays unresolved until better material turns up. So, the contrarian position, and I will defend it, I would rather hold the duller-looking ratchet whose catalog number pulls 3 official documents than the louder one whose number pulls a search page full of resellers. The second tool may be perfectly fine. What I can say is narrower than that. An official route was not located in the material I checked, and no broader inference follows from that. Entry 3 is the one almost nobody checks before buying, and it is the one you will want most on the day you actually need it. Coverage, whatever coverage turns out to be, has an end. Entry 3 asks a narrow question about the far side of that end. Is there a documented route for asking about service after coverage ends, and can I find that route on official material before I spend anything? Notice what I am not asking. I am not asking whether they will fix it. I am not asking whether the answer will be yes, or whether it will be free, or whether parts will be sitting on a shelf. Nobody can tell you that from an aisle, and anyone who does is guessing at you. I am asking a smaller and more honest question. Does the question have an address? Here is the like-for-like comparison. You can repeat yourself with 2 tabs open. In one tab, put a premium example. Milwaukee's material carries service information and a documented service route tied to the 245720, so the question has somewhere to go. In the other tab, put the budget example. My official search for the historical Earthquake XT cordless ratchet returned no current parts breakdown and no model-specific service program. For ProStormer, no service center network appeared in the official material I checked. That is the comparison, and you can run it yourself in about a minute standing in a store. Same search string, 2 manufacturers, and you read what comes back rather than what the packaging suggests. Now, the discipline part. A published route is not a promise. It means the question has an address, not that the answer is yes. Milwaukee having documented service information does not tell you what any particular request will be answered with, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. What a documented route buys you is standing. You get to ask a defined party a defined question about a defined catalog number. Without one, a missing official route leaves parts availability unresolved, and unresolved is not the same thing as unavailable. And again, because it matters. The absence I found on 2 of these names is an absence in official material on the day I searched. It does not prove universal absence, and it does not prove that no route exists anywhere for anyone. Entry 4 is conditional, and I want that word doing real work rather than sitting there as a hedge. Drive and anvil fit only matters if it matters to your drawer. Official documentation for the Makita RW01Z lists interchangeable anvils, 3/8 inch and 1/4 inch. That listing is what I am reporting and the whole of what I am reporting. If your sockets live in both sizes, that documented pair is worth something to you. The Milwaukee 245720 is the 3/8 inch drive tool in that M12 line. If everything you own is 3/8 inch, the interchangeable pair is a feature you will never reach for, and paying attention to it will only distract you from the entries that decide the file. Here is the handling part, and it is the same on any of them. Seat the anvil, confirm it locks where it is supposed to lock, turn it by hand and feel the joint. Then state plainly what you saw. If inspection reveals rounding, binding, play, damage, or uncertain fit, I decline that unit and I walk. That is a decision about that specific unit sitting in front of me, and I want to be exact about what it is not. Those observations do not predict a measured outcome. I have not measured anything, and I am not telling you what any tool will do later. This is also the entry where the correct move is sometimes to buy neither. If nothing official ties to the exact catalog number, and nothing at the counter reassures me either, I buy neither one and I go home with my money. There is no rule that says a purchase has to happen today. And there is a conditional rule worth stating plainly, with nothing named inside it. If 2 candidate units independently satisfy your documented fit requirement and your documented support requirement, then the cheaper total cost of getting onto a platform, verified rather than assumed, may be the rational choice. If either unit fails either requirement, the rule does not apply. Entry 5 is the last of the physical ones, and it is the entry people rush because it feels obvious. Controls, rail, head. 3 things you can work with your hands at the counter in under a minute, and all 3 of them are inspection only. Start with the controls. Work the trigger through its travel and then do it again and again. What I want is repeatable behavior, meaning the same input gives me the same result each time I ask. Then the forward and reverse selector. Push it over, push it back, and feel whether it seats positively in both directions or whether it wanders and leaves you unsure where it actually is. One more thing about the controls before I move on. Repeatable does not mean strong, and it does not mean fast. It means predictable. A control I cannot predict is a control I am arguing with, and I have never won that argument at a counter. Then the head. Turn it by hand and pay attention to the joint. I am feeling for binding and for play, which is to say, I am feeling for whether it moves smoothly and whether it sits where it should sit when it is not being moved. Then the rail. And here I am going to be careful with my language, because this is where reviewers start narrating things they cannot see. I am looking at the rail for visible damage. I am seating a pack and checking that it fits securely, that it latches, and that it releases cleanly when I want it to. That is the entire inspection. I am not telling you what that rail carries, and I am not going to make a prediction about how any of this behaves in cold weather or in any other condition, because I have not measured that, and neither has the aisle. The rule from entry 4 carries straight through here without changing. If inspection reveals rounding, binding, play, damage, or uncertain fit, I decline that unit. Those observations do not predict a measured outcome. They are notes about the sample in my hand, and they are enough to make me put it back, which is all they need to be. That is 5 entries filled, platform, exact model support, documented route, drive and anvil fit, and the physical inspection. The written terms entry is examined after those 5 on purpose, so that when the verdict comes, it rests on a complete file rather than on the entry that happened to be loudest. Let me open it. Entry 6 is the applicable written terms, and I want to define applicable before I read anybody's paperwork. An applicable written term has a stated length and a stated scope. It says how long, and it says what it covers, and it is published by the manufacturer under a form that ties to the product. That is what applicable means to me. What does not qualify is friendly language with no number attached to it. Reassuring phrasing is not a term. A line about standing behind the product is not a term. They are simply not readable, and an unreadable term is the same thing as no information at the moment you need information. So, the file. On the Milwaukee 245720, official warranty documentation exists on that catalog number, alongside the parts and service material I already read into entry 2. I can name the tool, find the parts information, find the service information, and read written terms that the manufacturer publishes. Whether any specific claim goes any specific way is not something I can tell you, and I will not. On the Makita RW01Z, there is official warranty coverage and a direct repair route published by Makita. Again, that gives me terms to read and a party to read them against. Whether a given repair happens, at what cost, on what timeline, is entirely outside what I checked and entirely outside what I will claim. On the historical Earthquake XT Cordless Ratchet, my official search found no current cordless ratchet listing, no current parts breakdown, and no model-specific service program. Those 3 gaps are the whole of what that search returned, and I am not going to extend them past what they say. On ProStormer, the official material I opened lacked an exact catalog number, a parts breakdown, a service network, and a defined warranty term when I checked. The page also read as sold out at that moment. Now here is the part I want you to take away more than any brand name I have said today, because it is where most buying advice goes wrong. A missing term does not prove there is no coverage. A vague term does not prove there is no coverage either. Vague or missing language does not prove a repair will happen. It does not prove a replacement will happen. It does not prove that no coverage exists. And it certainly does not prove anything about what you would do the following year. All it does is one thing. It increases uncertainty. That is the entire effect, and it is enough. because uncertainty is what I am spending money to reduce when I choose a documented route over an unresolved one. What lowers it is the documentation itself. And documentation does not prove a support status or an outcome. Say it flatly. I am not claiming any of these tools will fail. I am not claiming any of them will hold up. I did not measure a thing, and I am not going to hand you numbers I did not take. Now, the counter procedure, and it takes about 30 seconds once you have done it twice. Find the catalog number on the tool or its label, not the marketing name. Type that exact string into the manufacturer's own domain. Then look for 3 specific things and stop looking for anything else. 1, a parts breakdown for that number. 2, a service route for that number. 3, a written term with a stated length. If you get all 3, entry 6 is filled and you can buy on a complete file. If you get one of 3, you now know precisely what you are accepting. And here is the mistake to guard against, because searching the brand family corrupts the file. Its entries may point to different products. Do not search the brand family. Search the catalog number. A brand family page exists to reassure you, and it will happily show you terms that belong to some other product in the lineup. Second, do not accept a retailer listing as official material. A retailer listing is a sales page. It is not the manufacturer publishing terms about a catalog number. And one last time, the caveat that binds this whole file together. Everything I have described is what official material showed me on the day I looked. It does not prove universal absence. And if better documentation exists, I would want to see it. So here is my own money answer. And I am keeping it narrow on purpose. On documented supportability, I buy the Milwaukee 245720. It is the one where the exact catalog number pulled parts, service, and warranty documents, and where the platform behind it is active. That is the whole basis. Not feel, not noise, not a claim about which is stronger. The Makita RW01Z is conditional, and only conditional. It becomes a conditional alternative only after an existing CXT owner verifies exact compatibility between that tool and those packs, the health of those packs, the condition of that charger, and the documented route. Healthy packs on their own are not a basis, so do not buy it on that basis alone. If any one of those is unverified, that condition simply does not apply to you. And I have to say the honest thing about the headline. The evidence I gathered does not prove the upset. I did not find a cordless ratchet that beats these two on ownership support. I found 2 names whose official material could not fill the file. This rule I ran today is for choosing this cordless ratchet. I am not telling you it travels anywhere else. The empty search I ran at the start, the one with nothing in it, is exactly where this ends. Treat the comment box under this one as my inspection request ledger. Leave a comment below naming a maker, and beside it, that model's exact catalog number, 1 pairing per line. Whichever pairing fills the most lines is the one I put on the schedule. I have owned a tool I could not ask anybody about, and the hard part was never the shopping. It was standing there with a dead thing and nowhere to send the question. I would rather own 1 ratchet I can look after. That is the whole of it.